Diving deep where the circuits hum, ideas ignite where the tech world's from. Waves of code and data streams flow. The deep dive stars. Let's go, let's go.
Okay, here's one for you. Why did the computer get glasses?
Okay, I'll bite. Why did the computer get glasses?
Because it needed to improve its website.
Okay. Not bad. A little networking humor to get us started. Gets the mental circuits firing, right?
It does indeed. Welcome back, everyone, to the Deep Dive.
Great to be here.
Today, we're diving into something I think a lot of you might find really useful, especially if you're ever juggling network settings on your Windows machine.
Yeah, we're looking at a piece of software called Instant IP Configurator, or IIPC for short, thankfully.
Much easier. And this comes from Romuald Howe, who's the founder of Robben Island Software Applications.
That's the one.
So our mission for this session is basically to unpack IIPC. You know, what is it really? Who's it actually for? What can it do, especially this new version? And how do you use it?
And we're basing all this on the official user guide for the latest release, version 2.0, plus some extra notes Romuald shared.
And version 2.0 sounds like a pretty big deal, right? The notes say it's the biggest update since it first came out, which was only, about a month ago?
Yeah, it's a significant step up, not just tweaks. We're talking major new features.
So for anyone listening, whether you use IIPC already or this is the first you're hearing of it, this is definitely relevant. And this new version, 2.0, it's set to be available from June 14th, 2025.
Right, so just around the corner, we're getting a bit of an early look based on the guide and notes.
And the big headlines, what's new in 2.0?
Okay, the star of the show really is something called NetScan.
NetScan.
Yeah, it's described as a fully integrated, proprietary, multi-mode network scanner. So scanning built right into the tool.
Wow, okay. That sounds powerful. Anything else?
Yep, there's also a new search field, which might not sound flashy, but if you have a lot of saved network profiles, it's going to be huge for finding the one you need quickly.
Oh, I can see that being useful.
And then just general improvements, performance boosts, graphical user interface or GUI tweaks, just making the whole thing run smoother and faster.
All right, sounds like a solid update. So let's back up a bit. Fundamentally, what is Instant IP Configurator? What problem is it actually solving?
Okay, so at its heart, IIPC is software for Windows, specifically Windows 10 and Windows 11 PCs, laptops, tablets, that kind of thing.
Right.
And its core job, the main thing it does is let you save different network configurations, IP address, subnet mask, gateway, DNS servers, all that stuff.
Save them as profiles.
Exactly, as distinct profiles. Maybe one for the office, one for home, one for client A's site, one for client B's test network. You get the idea.
Okay, so you save these different setups. Then what?
Then the real magic, or maybe just the core function, is applying them easily. Instead of digging through Windows settings every single time you need to switch, clicking through network and internet, adapter options, properties, TCP/IPv4.
Ugh, yeah, that multi-click dance.
Right, which you might do multiple times a day if you move around. With IIPC, you just pick the profile you saved, say client and main network, click apply, and boom. It changes your network adapter settings to match that profile.
Okay, that immediately makes sense. The pain point is definitely real for installers, technicians, engineers, people who are constantly plugging into different systems at different sites.
Absolutely. AV pros, UC engineers, network techs, anyone who connects to various client networks. Manually changing IPs is slow, it's tedious, and honestly, it's easy to make a mistake. Type one digit wrong in the IP address or gateway, and suddenly nothing works.
And you spend 10 minutes figuring out you just typed a 7 instead of a 1.
Been there. So IIPC aims to kill that repetition and reduce those errors.
Now, there are probably other tools out there that do similar things, saving network profiles. What makes IIPC stand out? What's unique about it, according to the user guide?
Good question. The guide points out several things. One is visually obvious. When you run it, there's this big dedicated home button right on the main screen.
A home button, takes you back to a main menu.
Not quite. It's more functional than that. It's designed to instantly revert your network settings back to a default pre-configured home state.
Ah, so like your normal everyday connection. Maybe DHCP at the office.
Exactly. That's the most common use case. You set up your home profile, usually just DHCP for your main network, and whenever you're done working on some weird client network with a static IP or something goes wrong, you just hit that big home button. It puts your adapter back to its normal settings.
That sounds incredibly useful, kind of like a get me back to safety button.
It really is. It removes that little bit of panic. Okay, how do I undo these settings I just applied? One click, and you're back to normal.
Okay, the home button is a definite plus. What else is unique?
The profiles themselves are more than just IP settings. When you create a profile, IIPC gives you these extra fields that are surprisingly helpful.
Extra fields, like what?
Well, first, there's a dedicated notes section for each profile.
Okay, notes make sense. Reminders for that specific network.
Precisely. Maybe you need to remember the Wi-Fi password for that site, or the IP of the main server you always need to hit, or, don't forget firewall rule X needs port Y open. Any little text reminder specific to that client or location can live right there with the IP settings.
Handy. Keeps everything together. What else? The guide mentioned an external link. That sounds different.
It is a bit unusual, but it's clearly designed for that mobile professional workflow. The external link field lets you store a URL, like a web address, or even a path to a file on your computer or a network share.
A link within the IP profile. To what?
To anything relevant to that specific client or site. Imagine you're at Client Z's office. Maybe they have an online portal for their equipment documentation or an asset register spreadsheet on a shared drive. You can save the link to that specific resource right in the IIPC profile for Client Z.
Ah, I see. So when you load the profile to connect to their network, you can also just click that link to pull up their specific documentation or device list.
Exactly. No more hunting through bookmarks or emails, trying to find that link, you save somewhere. It connects the network setup directly to the resources you need for that job. Really clever, I think.
That is clever. Streamlines the whole process. And there was a context section mentioned too.
Yep. For each profile, you can save contact details, name, phone, email, for up to 3 people.
Like a client's IT contact, or maybe your main point person on site.
Right. Or maybe a colleague who often works on that site with you. And the notes add a nice touch here. Often, if you put an email address in one of those contact fields, you can just double-click it right there in IIPC.
And it opens a new email.
Yeah, it'll usually pop open a new draft in your default email program already addressed to them. Little things like that save clicks and time when you're trying to quickly reach out to someone on site.
Definitely. Those small quality of life things add up. Okay, so we've got the safety net home button and profiles packed with IP details, notes, links, and contacts. What about managing them? If you've got dozens of clients, that list could get long.
It absolutely can. And the user guide acknowledges that navigating a huge list can become, quote, cumbersome. That's where 2 features come in handy. The star profiles, and new in 2.0, the search field.
Okay, tell me about the star feature first, like starring emails.
Pretty much exactly like that. You select a profile you use all the time, maybe your main office or client you visit weekly, and you click the star button down at the bottom.
And what does that do?
It bumps that profile up to a special section right at the very top of your list. So your most important, frequently used profiles are always visible right there, no scrolling needed. The guide calls them your superstar profiles.
Nice. Easy access. And you can unstar them too, presumably.
Oh, yeah. Just select a starred profile, click the star button again, and it drops back into the main alphabetical list.
Does that starring stick around, like if I close IIPC and open it tomorrow?
Yes, and that's key. The notes emphasize that the starred status persists. You close the app, you reopen it, your starred profiles are still pinned right at the top.
Perfect. Builds muscle memory for those key connections. And for everything else, the new search feature in 2.0 helps filter the long list.
Exactly. This is one of the big additions in 2.0. There's now a search box right above the profile list. You just start typing maybe the client name or part of the site location.
And the list filters down live.
Instantly. It just shows the profiles that match what you typed. So if you have 50 profiles, but you type Client A, you'll only see the ones with Client A in the name. Super fast way to find what you need without scrolling.
That sounds like a massive improvement for anyone with a lot of profiles.
It really is. One thing the guide notes, the filter itself clears when you close IIPC. You'll see the full list again next time. But if any of the profiles that showed up in your search results were starred, they remain starred.
Okay, that makes sense. Star status is permanent until you change it. Search is temporary filtering. Got it.
What about deleting profiles you don't need anymore?
Simple enough. Select the profile on the list, click the delete profile button, and it'll ask you to confirm, are you sure? Click yes, and it's gone. Standard stuff. Okay, profile creation, management, starring, searching, deleting. Seems well covered. Now, you mentioned IIPC has a couple of aces up its sleeve. Integrated tools.
Yeah, that's the term the user guide uses. It's referring to capabilities baked right into IIPC that go beyond just profile switching. The first one is called the Netline Console.
Netline Console. Sounds like a command line.
It is, effectively. It's described as a full-featured proprietary command line interface built right into the IIPC application window.
Okay, but why? Why put a command line inside an IP switcher? I've already got command prompts or PowerShell on Windows.
Efficiency, mostly. Think about the workflow. You use IIPC to apply a specific static IP for a client's device. What's the very next thing you often do?
Ping it, probably.
Mhm.
Or ping the gateway. Make sure the connection is actually working.
Exactly. Or maybe run a trace route. Normally, you switch to IIPC, apply the profile, then open CMD, type your ping command. With Netline Console, you apply the profile, and then right there in the same window, you can immediately type ping 192.168.1.1 or whatever you need to do.
Ah, okay. So it keeps you in the same application context. Change IP, test connectivity, all in one place.
Precisely. You just type standard network commands like ping, traceroute, ipconfig, whatever, into the Netline Console section, and the output shows up right there.
Does it have any special commands unique to Netline?
It does. Romuald added a couple of proprietary ones that are pretty useful in this context. First is stop.
Stop. For stopping what?
For stopping a running process, typically a continuous ping. You know how you might run ping-t some.ip.address to watch connectivity?
Yeah, the continuous ping.
To stop that in Netline, you don't need to hit Ctrl+C, you just type stop. And the notes say it's case insensitive, so stop, S-T-O-P, stop, they all work.
Andy. Saves that sometimes awkward keyboard combo. What else?
There's also a clear command. Again, case insensitive. Just like in many terminals, typing clear wipes the output window clean. Gives you a fresh slate without losing your place.
Does clear erase your command history, though? Can you still arrow up to previous commands?
Good question. No, it doesn't erase the history. The user guide mentions you can still use the UP and down arrow keys on your keyboard to cycle through commands you've previously entered, even after clearing the screen. Really useful for rerunning tests quickly.
Okay, so Netline Console, integrated command line for immediate diagnostics. That's one ace. What's the other one? The big new thing in 2.0.
That would be NetScan. This is positioned as the other ace up the sleeve, and yeah, it's the major new feature getting the spotlight in version 2.0.
And NetScan is?
It's a fully integrated, proprietary, multi-mode network scanner.
Okay, unpack multi-mode for me. What does that mean it's actually doing when it scans?
It means it's not relying on just one single technique to find devices on the network. It actually uses 4 different methods simultaneously to try and get the most complete picture.
4 methods at once. What are they?
According to the guide, it uses ping sweep, ARP resolution, reverse DNS, and MEC lookup.
Okay. Why use all 4? Why not just ping everything?
Because relying only on ping can miss things. Some devices, for security reasons or just by configuration, are set up not to respond to pings. They'd be invisible to a simple ping scanner.
Ah, right. Firewalls blocking ICMP, that kind of thing.
Exactly. So NetScan uses multiple angles. Ping sweep, that's the basic hello, are you there? ICMP echo request. Finds things that do respond to ping. ARP resolution. ARP maps IP addresses to physical MAS addresses on the local network segment. Scanning with ARP can find devices physically connected nearby, even if they're blocking pings. Super useful on the local link. Reverse DNS. This tries to look up the host name associated with an IP address. If a device has a name registered in DNS, like printer sales dept, this can find it and help identify it. MC lookup. This takes the MA address, that unique hardware ID of the network card, found via ARP, and looks up the first part of it in a database to identify the manufacturer.
Ooh, the manufacturer lookup is useful. So it might not tell you it's a Model X printer, but it could say HP Inc. or Cisco Systems.
Precisely. Or Axis Communications for a camera, or Dell for a computer. It gives you a really strong clue about what the device is, even if it doesn't have a host name. By doing all 4, ping, ARP, DNS lookup, MSC vendor ID NetScan casts a much wider net. It's more likely to find devices that other simpler scanners might miss.
That makes a lot of sense. More techniques mean fewer places for devices to hide. So how do you actually kick off a scan with this thing?
First, you need to tell it what to scan the scan range. And it's pretty flexible here. You can enter IPv4 ranges in a few ways.
Right.
You can do a start and end IP like 192.168, 192.168.168.1.1254. Or you can just give a start IP and how many addresses, like 192.168.1.1254. It also understands CIDR notation.
Ah, like 192.168.168.1224 for a standard Class C network.
Exactly. Network folks love CIDR. And you don't have to scan a whole range. You can scan just a small block, like 192.168.1.110, or even just a single IP address if you want to probe one specific device.
Okay, flexible input. But what if I'm on a network I'm not familiar with? I might not know the range offhand.
That's where another nice convenience feature comes in. There's a drop-down menu right next to the scan range field labeled Interface.
Interface,
Yeah.
like my network adapter.
Yep. You click that drop-down, and it lists your active network interfaces, probably your Ethernet adapter if you're plugged in. You select the interface you're currently using for that network, and IIPC automatically figures out the network range based on that adapter's current IP address and subnet mask, and it populates the scan range field for you.
Whoa, that's brilliant. So I don't have to open CMD, run ipconfig, figure out the network ID and broadcast address. I just pick my adapter from the list.
Pretty much. It takes the guesswork out of defining the range for the network you're currently connected to. Huge time saver.
Can you still edit it after it auto-populates? Like, if I only want to scan the first half of the network.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It just fills in the detected range as a starting point. You can tweak it however you want before hitting scan.
Is there a way to update that list of interfaces and their ranges if, say, I unplug and plug into a different network?
Yes, there's a little refresh button right next to the interface dropdown. If your network situation changes, you hit refresh. IIPC quickly checks your adapters again, and the drop-down list will update with the current networks. The guide makes a point that refresh just detects things. It doesn't change any settings itself.
Okay, so define the range manually, CIDR, or using the interface helper, then click the scan button.
That's it. Click scan, and NetScan gets to work.
How do I know what it's doing? Can I see the progress?
Yep, there are indicators. You'll see a percentage in a progress field ticking up, showing how far through the range it's scanned.
Yep.
And there's usually a count somewhere, maybe at the bottom, showing something like, scanned, 50254 alive. 5 tells you how many IPs it's checked and how many have responded in some way.
And if it's taking too long or I realize I scanned the wrong thing, can I stop it mid-scan?
Yes, there's a clear stop button that becomes active during the scan. Just click that and it'll halt the process.
Okay, scan complete or stopped. What do the results look like? Where do they show up?
They appear in a list view right below the scan controls. Now, because it's using those multiple modes, ping, ARP, DNS, MSC, all at the same time, the results might initially appear a little jumbled. Devices might not be listed in perfect IP order as they're discovered by the different techniques.
So it could look a bit random at first glance.
Potentially, yeah. But it's super easy to organize. The results list has clear column headings, usually name for hostname, IP, manufacturer, and MAC.
And you can sort by clicking those headings.
Exactly. Click the IP header, and boom, everything sorts numerically by IP address. Click manufacturer, and it groups all the devices from the same vendor together. Click name to sort alphabetically by hostname. Makes it really easy to analyze the results and find what you're looking for.
That's essential. Sorting by manufacturer sounds particularly useful for identifying types of devices quickly. What about column width? Sometimes host names or MRAA addresses are long.
You can resize the columns too. Just like in Windows Explorer or Excel, you can hover your mouse over the little line between the column headers, click and drag to make columns wider or narrower as needed.
Nice. Standard interface stuff. Now, the really cool part, interacting with the results. Say I find the IP address of a network printer or a router in the scan list. Can I do anything with that entry directly from IIPC?
Yes, and this is another one of those brilliant workflow enhancers. The user guide specifically mentions this. You can double-click on any device listed in the NetScan results.
Double-click it. And what happens?
If that device has a web interface, which tons of network gear does, routers, switches, printers, cameras, NAS boxes, all sorts of things.
And for configuration?
Then double-clicking its entry in NetScan will automatically open your computer's default web browser and try to navigate directly to that device's IP address.
Get out. Seriously. So scan, find the device, double-click, and I'm potentially looking at its login page in my browser.
That's the idea. It bridges that gap between discovering a device on the network and actually accessing its configuration interface. No more manually copying the IP, opening a browser tab, pasting the IP, hitting enter, just double-click.
Wow. Okay. Between the instant profile switching, the built-in NetLine console for quick pings, and now NetScan for discovery and direct web access, IIPC 2.0 is sounding less like just an IP switcher and more like a network text multi-tool.
That's a really good way to put it. It's integrating the common sequence of tasks. Connect, verify, discover, access.
Okay, shifting gears slightly, you mentioned earlier the ability to import and export profiles.
Right.
Why would someone need to do that, and how does it work?
Right, import to export. It's super important for a couple of main reasons. First, Backups.
Backing up the profiles I've created.
Exactly. Think about it. You might spend weeks or months carefully creating profiles for dozens of client sites. If your laptop dies or gets stolen or you just upgrade to a new machine, you do not want to have to recreate all of those from scratch. Exporting lets you save all your profiles into a single file.
And you save that file somewhere safe, like cloud storage or a USB drive.
You bet. It's your insurance policy for all that configuration work.
Okay, backups make sense. What's the other reason?
Sharing. Especially for teams. Imagine you work for an integration company. Maybe one senior tech sets up the IIPC profiles for all the standard client sites your company services.
So one person does the initial setup.
Right. They create the profiles with the correct IPs, maybe add useful notes or contacts. Then they just export that profiles file and share it with the rest of the team.
And everyone else just imports it.
Exactly. Everyone imports the same file, and instantly they all have the same consistent set of configurations for all the standard sites. Saves a massive amount of duplicated effort and ensures everyone's using the right settings. Big win for team efficiency.
Yeah, I could see that being huge. So how do you actually do the export? Is it complicated?
Nope. Very simple according to the guide. You just go to the Settings tab within the IIPC application.
Yes, Settings tab.
And there's an Export button. Click that. Choose where you want to save the file. It'll likely be called something like Profiles. Give it a sensible name maybe, and hit. Save. Done.
Easy enough. And importing. Also in Settings.
Also in Settings, click the Import button, browse to wherever you saved your backup file or wherever a colleague put the shared file. Select that Profiles file and click Open. IIPC should then load them in.
Now, is there anything tricky about importing? Any warnings?
Yes. One very important warning. The user guide highlights this, and it's critical. When you import a profiles file, the list of profiles in that file will completely overwrite whatever profiles you currently have in IIPC.
Well, wait. It doesn't add them, it replaces the whole list.
Correct. It's a replacement, not a merge. So let's say you have 20 profiles saved. Your colleague sends you a file with 30 profiles. If you just import that file, your original 20 profiles will be gone, replaced by the 30 from the file.
Ouch. Okay, that's a major heads up. So if I want to keep my existing profiles A and D, add ones from a file, what do I do?
The only safe way is to first export your current profiles. Save your own backup file. Then import the new file, which replaces your list. After that, you'd unfortunately have to manually recreate any unique profiles that were in your original backup, but not in the imported file. Or perhaps open the exported files, if they're text-based, which isn't specified but possible, and manually merge them before re-importing a combined file. But the guide doesn't mention merging, just overwriting. The key takeaway is import replaces everything. Export first if you want to keep what you have.
Got it. Crucial detail. Export before import if you don't want to lose data. Now, what about people already using the older version, 1.2.0? How should they upgrade to 2.0 when it comes out?
The notes provided have specific steps for that upgrade path. It's pretty logical, follows from what we just discussed about import-export.
Okay, walk me through it.
Step 1, and this is the most important. Before you uninstall the old version, 1.2.0, open it up and use the export function to save your current profiles. Save that profiles file somewhere safe.
Right, because the new install won't automatically find the old data.
Exactly. Step 2. Install version 2.0. You'll get the new setup file, IIPC 2.0, setup.exe, run it, accept the license, let it install. It should replace the old version.
Okay, new version installed. Then.
Step 3, launch the new IIPC 2.0. Go to the Settings tab, click Import, and select that profiles file you saved back in Step 1. That brings all your configurations into the new version.
Makes sense. What's Step 4?
Step 4 is just to quickly reconfigure your home profile. Go back into Settings in 2.0, find the Home Profile section, click Edit, set it up how you like it, usually just selecting your main adapter and setting it to DHCP, and click Save. The notes say this should be quick, but it does need to be done again on the new version.
So, export from old, install new, import to new, reset home. 4 steps. Seems manageable.
As long as you remember that first export step, yeah.
We mentioned Windows 10 and 11. Just to be crystal clear, is it only supported on those? What about older Windows or Mac or Linux?
The documentation is very firm on this. Officially, IIPC is developed for and supported on Microsoft Windows 10 and Windows 11 only. Trying to run it on Windows 7 or 8 or using emulators or compatibility layers like Wine on Linux or Parallels on Mac, that's all unsupported territory. It might work, it might not, but if you run into issues, you're kind of on your own.
Okay, so stick to Win 10 or 11 for the intended experience. Good to know. Aside from the big hitters, NetScan and Search, you mentioned general performance and GUI improvements.
Yeah, the notes just briefly state that V2.0 includes these. It doesn't detail exactly what was optimized or changed visually, but the implication is that the application should feel snappier, more responsive, maybe use fewer resources, and the interface might look a little cleaner or more polished than V1.2.0.
Those under-the-hood improvements are always welcome. Makes the tool more pleasant to use day to day.
Absolutely. It shows they're not just bolting on new features, but also refining the core application.
Looking at this evolution from just saving IPs a month ago to now having scanning and command line tools built in, it really shows how quickly a focused utility can grow.
It does. And if you think about the typical workflow for someone this tool targets, it makes so much sense to integrate these things.
How so?
Well, you arrive at a site, you need to connect to their network. Task 1, apply the right IP profile, IIPC core function. Task 2, verify connectivity. Can I ping the gateway? Can I ping the device I need to configure? Netline console. Task 3, maybe I don't know the device's IP or I need to see what else is on this segment, NetScan. Task 4, found the device, need to configure it via its web page, NetScan, double-click.
It maps directly to the sequence of actions you take.
Exactly. Instead of juggling 3 or 4 different windows, IIPC, command prompt, maybe a separate scanning tool like Angry IP Scanner or Advanced IP Scanner, then your browser, you can potentially do most of that initial connection and discovery sequence right inside IIPC.
For someone billing by the hour or trying to get through multiple sites in a day, that consolidation has got to save real time.
You'd think so. Less context switching, fewer clicks, faster discovery. It adds up.
It does raise an interesting point, though, maybe about reliance on tools. When one app starts doing everything.
Right. Does it make you more efficient because it's integrated? Or does it potentially become a crutch? Or maybe you don't understand the underlying separate tools as well. Or what happens if that one multi-tool has a bug?
That's the trade-off, isn't it? IIPC seems to be aiming for a sweet spot, though. It's not trying to be a full network management suite, just integrating the tools most relevant to that initial connection and diagnostic phase for someone plugging into an unfamiliar network.
I agree. It feels focused. It's sticking to the core problem space of the mobile tech or engineer. And the developer's stated hope is just that, to help users be more effective and efficient. Based on this feature set in 2.0, it looks like it has a very good shot at doing that.
This has been really great, digging into all the details of Instant IP Configurator 2.0. It's genuinely impressive to see how much functionality has been packed into it, especially with NetScan. It seems like Romuald Howe and Robben Island Software Applications are really listening to what people in the field need.
It certainly looks that way. And yeah, thanks to the detailed user guide and the extra notes, we could really get a sense of how it all works together. As the guide says, hopefully users find it valuable. And hopefully you, the listener, found this deep dive helpful in understanding what IIPC 2.0 brings to the table.
Absolutely. So the bottom line, if your job involves plugging your Windows 10 or 11 laptop into different networks all the time and manually changing IP settings is a regular part of your day, IPC version 2.0 is definitely something you should look at. It's free, and it seems designed to directly address those pain points.
And remember, the target release date is June 14th, 2025. You'll find it over on the Robben Island Software GitHub repository. The link will likely be in the show notes or easily searchable.
Perfect. Okay, before we wrap up, let's leave you with a little something to think about. We've seen how a tool like IIPC is evolving, integrating scanning and diagnostics right alongside configuration. How does this trend of increasingly powerful integrated field tools change the game? Does it empower technicians to solve more complex problems on the spot because the tools are right there? Or does it perhaps lower the barrier to entry in a way that might mask a deeper understanding of the underlying network principles? Something to mull over.